Okay, so just to explain, we've called this meeting to discuss the reintegration of street-connected children, and it's part of the regional learning platform on care reform. And we're just going to start off with some introductions. So I will start off by introducing myself. My name is Emily Delap, and I work with Child Frontiers, and I've been brought in by UNICEF's regional office for Eastern and Southern Africa to support the development of the regional learning platform. Shall we go, Dinah? Do you want to introduce yourself? Maybe just explain who you are, which country you're from, and just a little bit in a couple of sentences about the work that you're doing on reintegration.
Thank you, Emily. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
This is Dina, formerly ReTrack Uganda. Now we are Hope for Justice. I work for Hope for Justice as a foster care advisor, but I've also worked closely actually in formulating the reintegration standard operating procedures that were eventually adopted by the government of Uganda and are now being used in the reintegration of several children across the country and beyond. So I've been working here for some time, for many years, over 10 years. And, you know, I'm really glad to be here on this meeting and to be able to share together some of the things that we do. When we worked as ReTrack Uganda, we mainly were working with street-connected children, children who would reach out on the street. Then we bring them over to our shelters and then listen to them, prepare them through counseling, through life skills, through literacy and numeracy education at the lighthouse, or present a lighthouse, but we usually call it a shelter. So then we would move them on to their families across the country or times beyond, and follow them up for about a year or so, or less or more, depending on the child's individual children's situations. And we have done that since formally since 1997. And our success rate for the children that are reintegrated back with their families is around 85%. So at the moment, we work together with the street-connected children. We now specifically work with trafficked children, children who find themselves in the city having been brought over different reasons. So some just get lost along the way, and we still do the same. We prepare them and take them back to their people. And it's the children to whom reintegration with biological families is not in their best interest, so it's not safe, that we eventually have the children prepared for foster care. And those who are older will be trained as apprentices and then moved on to independent living with some kind of support for them. We also work in the community now as Hope for Justice to try and prevent trafficking. There are several community activities that are going on. So very briefly, that's what we do as Hope for Justice that were formerly ReTrack Uganda. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, I'm Mala Maona from UNICEF Malawi country office. I work as a child protection specialist. My role basically has been to support the government of Malawi in the development of the reintegration program. mostly since 2015. Although earlier we used to support through the Better Care Network, but the actual program was designed around 2015 after the evaluation that was done in childcare institutions. And using the same approach, we modified the case management tools to make sure that they had to address specific needs of children in childcare institutions. And we have been advocating with the government of Malawi to use the same tools for street-connected children. However, this has been quite controversial. So since Enoch, I'm glad Enoch is here, who is the Deputy Director of Social Welfare, but also he has been the lead for the program on reintegration in Malawi before he rose to this position as Deputy Director. And he's seen, we made some significant change, gains, but in the area of street connected children, we haven't done much. So this is where, as I said, our role has been to advocate that they use the case management approach as an entry point for early identification, assessment, a referral, and management. But this has not been well received with several partners. It could be an understanding of the concept, or maybe through the lessons that we'll get from Uganda, Kenya, and Zambia. Those might give us a different perspective and way forward. Also glad that Stefano is here because he comes from the district where they actually do face the challenges with street-connected children. Over.
Thank you. Sorry, I was having a bit of a problem unmuting between those two introductions. Mala, do you just want to very briefly just explain, and maybe just very briefly, the other people from Malawi can just quickly introduce themselves? I'm just conscious of time, so I don't want to spend too much time on the introductions. Could you just explain who else is here from Malawi, and they can say a quick hello?
Okay, so Enoch, maybe you can come. Enoch, you can come next, and then Stefano.
Great.
Yeah, I'm Enoch Bonongwe, Deputy Director, Social Welfare.
Thank you. And Stefano?
Already introduced. I'm Stefano Joseph, the Social Welfare Officer based in Blantyre, one of the cities where I think we are dealing with issues of street-connected children. And I'm looking forward to learn more from this meeting.
Fantastic.
Meshek is the last one. Meshek and Christine. Oh, thank you, Christina, for joining as well.
Yeah, that's great. We have more people than I'd anticipated. That's brilliant. Meshek and Christina, do you just want to introduce yourselves quickly?
Hello, good afternoon. Meshek Ndambo, Social Welfare, Minister of Gender. Over.
Thank you.
Yes, good
Hello.
afternoon. I'm Christina, Chief of Child Protection here at UNICEF. Over.
Wonderful, thank you so much. And then we have
Alexander.
Yes, I thought I saw Alexander. Yeah, great. Please go ahead, Alexander.
Not sure, but good afternoon. I'll greet you as it is in Malawi. I'm Alexander Mare, a Child Protection Officer with UNICEF Malawi. Over.
Thank you so much. Fantastic. Great to have such good representation from Malawi. Should we, is that everyone from Malawi? I think that is, just looking at the list.
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. Should we just skip over to Zambia now, and Elizabeth and Memory, maybe you can just explain who you are and a little bit about the work that you're doing to support the reintegration of street-connected children.
Thank you, Emily. So from Zambia, I'm joined by Memory and from CMMB, and Mwansa from UNICEF. So as CMMB, my role there at CMMB is the Child Protection Advisor, also managing the Children in Families component. which is a program that we started implementing way back in 2015. So I have been part of the CIF group since 2016, and for CMMB, I started implementing the program in last year in January. So I have been on the group for some time now, though working for another organization, which is part of the consortium. So in terms of what we have been doing in line with the meeting for today, that's children that are connected to the street. As CMMB, we have been working with these children, and we've been using the reintegration pathways that were developed by UNICEF. So in terms of what we've done so far, I'll give a practical case of the last phase that we had for the children in families. So that's from 2019 to date. So we have been working with UNICEF, the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services, the Catholic Relief Services, the Zambia Association for Sisterhood, and Alliance for Children everywhere in Zambia, and also Save the Children. So that's the Keeping Children in Families group. So we have been working on two efforts. We have what we call the ongoing effort, which is being coordinated by UNICEF. So this is a platform where we all, as partners, we have our individual work under reintegration. And then we have what we call the collective effort, where we all put in our efforts according to our expertise. So in terms of what we've done as part of CIF group with the street connected children is that we have one, prevented separation in the communities. We have worked through our community volunteers to identify families with children at risk of separation. And most of these children actually are the children that are usually found on the streets. So these children that are on the streets during the day, and then they go back home in the evening and at risk of separation. So our community volunteers that have been trained in a basic qualification for childcare, psychosocial counseling, community case management, and also village and lendings group associations are the ones that work with the guardians and parents in the communities just to ensure that there's no separation going on there. And then for the children that live on the streets, we had social welfare recommending some of the childcare facilities that we could work with. And we have one in particular that we worked with, and this is a Fountain of Hope. So Fountain of Hope is a drop-in / transit center that has been working with orphans, street kids, children that are connected to the streets, and also orphans and vulnerable children since 1996. And they provide shelter, education, health, and sports recreation. So when we were first hit with COVID, I think there was an emphasis that we needed to ensure that the children that were living on the streets needed to get back home because it was not safe for them on the streets. So we worked with Fountain of Hope, and we used the reintegration pathways that were developed by UNICEF to reintegrate these children. I also must mention that we do not have specific guidelines for children living on the street. So we use the same reintegration pathways for both children that have been connected to the streets and those that have not. So we managed to work with 13 children that had lived on the streets, and we managed to successfully reintegrate 7. So the other 6 are still in process. We've conducted family counseling, and we've also conducted family conferencing, individual counseling, and there's just been some things that we need to ensure that before the children are reintegrated, the environment in which they are going into is safe. And also we have to ensure that it's in the best interest of these children. So these children are still in the transit center, but we are still working with the Department of Social Welfare to ensure that we reintegrate these children. And then on the collective effort, we worked with 5 children, and these were successfully reintegrated back into their communities. I think I'll end here now. For now, I'll give a chance to Memory and Mwansa to also contribute. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yes, so my name is Memory Mwansa. I'm a community mobilization officer under Child Protection and Health Unity, CMMB Zambia. So the key point maybe I can add to what Elizabeth has said is with the reintegration process, the key issue or area that we make sure we do well is making sure that we prepare the homes and the families where these children will be reintegrated to. And also making sure that children are thoroughly talked to through counseling, through child counseling, so that they are ready to avoid the secondary separation. Yeah, over.
Thank you, that's great. And I just before we get into a little bit more of the detail about your work, I think we also have Teresia from Kenya on the call. Do you just want to introduce yourself? Teresia, do you want to introduce? Maybe she's having connectivity issues. Okay, well, just to explain, Teresia is with Catholic Relief Services and Changing the Way We Care in Kenya, and hopefully she'll be able to come in later on in this discussion. So what I was going to suggest that we did next is perhaps, I mean, it's entirely up to the Malawi team, really. I don't know whether you'd like to ask some questions, or we could ask our colleagues in Zambia and Uganda to talk through in a little bit more detail about the reintegration processes. I mean, I'm quite interested to understand how reintegration of street children is different from reintegration of other groups, and some of the challenges you've faced and how you've overcome them. Would that be helpful, do you think, to kind of go through some of those things?
Yes. I think the carryover questions that we had from the previous meeting, myself and Stefano, you will remind me, was that we really wanted to understand, for example, Zambia has talked about preparing homes and families where these street-connected children will be integrated into to prevent secondary separation. So what does this preparation entail? Mm-hmm. and what tools do they use? Over.
Great. Okay, thanks, Malak. Were there any other questions coming from Malawi that you'll be particularly keen to understand?
Hello, this is Enoch Bonongwe. I guess my colleague from the districts will also give their perspective on the operational issues, but I think for us at the ministry headquarters would also want to learn 1 or 2 things in terms of programming, in terms of package of intervention, in terms of the tools and the processes and so on and so forth. But just to give background is that as a country, we noticed that the whole alternative care programming is disjointed in such a way that issues to do with foster care adoption are done a bit differently, and issues about the reintegration of children from childcare institutions are done a bit differently. and issues to do with reintegration of children from the streets are done a bit differently. So from our national programming, our desire is to have a more comprehensive kind of programming and policy guidance in terms of how we do these things. And that we can only learn from those that have done it, to say, if we do not have a comprehensive approach to reintegration, how are others doing it, so that we learn from them. And we again would want to learn about whether there are guidelines and policies and tools that they have been using, and knowing that we have a history of foster care placement and adoption from social work practice, and that now we went into the reintegration of street connected children with an elaborate program, and government on the other hand and the civil society partners are pushing for the reintegration of street connected children. How can we as a country comprehensively look at this in terms of the programming approach, the guiding documents in terms of the national action plans, and so on and so forth. So that is what we would want to learn, like from our side. I know from the district level, they are more likely to see if we assess what is the assessment like, if we how many times do we have to visit a household, how long does it take to prepare a child, what is the package of support for children, maybe with behavioral problems and that are difficulty to effectively reintegrate into society, and all other related things that are closer to the implementation. And I know UNICEF would also want to learn the programming, how to ensure that the rights of children are not infringed, how not to force children out of the street, and so on and so forth. So as a country, we are open to learning, but I think since we are at different levels, every one of us would be picking their piece in terms of how they contribute to the whole system of alternative care placement for children that have, in one way or the other, lost or at risk of losing parental care. Thank you.
Thanks so much. It's a great set of questions. I can see Alexander has his hand up. Did you want to add anything to those questions? And then I'll hand over to our colleagues in Uganda and Zambia to give some responses.
Yeah, so sure, I have some questions. As Mara indicated, and also Enoch, that we had focused much on reintegration, moving children from the childcare institutions to the communities. But then another area that also needs much of our attention is the street connected children. So when I think Uganda was presenting, they indicated that they do have a success rate of over 80%. So what I wanted to learn from them is whether right away from the beginning they had reached this 80+%, or if not, what has been the trend for them to reach to this level? What do they consider as success factors? What do they think they did well in order to reach to this level? Secondly, I looked at the way the program is being run. If I got Zambia well, they indicated that they do have a consortium, and they mentioned about social workers, I think. But I I wanted them to come clear what the role of the government is, and when they look at the program, if the consortium, for instance, has reduced its effort, would the government actually take the leading role as with their reduced role? And if not, what do they think are the things that can be considered as prerequisites to ensure that the government actually lead in this area? Over.
Fantastic questions. Thank you so much. So just to summarize the questions, I hope I got them right. It was around the kind of process of reintegration. So the assessment process, how children and families are prepared, what kind of package of support is offered, the tools that are used, around questions around the guidance, policies and tools that you have, around how you achieve, how long it took you to reach success, if you like, and achieve that kind of 80% success rate, how you ensure sustainability in relation to sort of government's role in the future, and how you deal with some of the challenges around the reintegration of street connected children in particular. And one of the challenges that was highlighted was behavioural problems. So maybe we'll start off with you, Dina, and you can give us your great learning that you've had from many years of working specifically with street connected children, and try and answer some of those questions for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emily, and thank you so much, friends, for the many questions raised, and for the work that you're already doing around street connected children. I must say the work with street connected children certainly presents very, very great challenges. And the processes involved really need a lot of patience and understanding of the situations that the children go through. Maybe to start with, we really did not start as then ReTrack Uganda at this high level. We came a long way, making mistakes and ourselves, and falling in and out to be able to support these children. But in the first place, what we were able to learn, because earlier we were running shelters, the day shelter, at first it was one where children were free to come to this center, and they attend literacy and numeracy lessons, and they receive counseling where we would be able to listen to them. And some of them would go back to the street, and then some of them would stay. So what we learned from that was that once the children are on the street, most of them have been pushed there by circumstances, either at home, in the community, at school, but in most cases at home. So they have to allow or consent to coming to the center. You cannot say, okay, come here, we go. They have to allow to come. So what we would do, we would give them information. Our outreach workers would give them information. We are ReTrack Uganda at that time. When you come to the center, we will help you. We will listen to you. We will support you in one way or the other. But mostly we would try to avoid like giving promises. Come, we do this, or come, we take you to school. We would encourage them to come, and the first thing would say, we would like to listen to you. The challenge with the street connected children is that they have been betrayed in some way or another by adults. So their trust to adults is very flimsy. They may not trust adults. So what we would do, we would let them tell us as many incorrect stories as they would say, but we would be there to listen to them. So eventually out of that story, one day a child would come and say, okay, I have been saying all this to you, but here is the correct story. But they would come after seeing that there was commitment to listening to them. Two, there was commitment to not to judge them, to say, why are you on the street? Why are you, why are you not at home? Because for some of them, being on the street is like the only free space they have to be themselves. Of course, that is like elusive, but it's like the place where they feel I am out of this violent home, or I'm out of this situation that has affected me for this long, so I am free to be. So we would not judge them, we would allow them to be. So at the center, they would be received by staff, first of all, the nurse, to see that if they are sick, they get attention, the warden to record their first story, and for the social workers, counseling. And then the teacher would teach them the literacy and numeracy lessons. And then later we added the life skills training, which really was very, very helpful because as part of the preparation process, it would help these children to learn to manage their situations. For example, if there was, which is a problem to most of them, anger management. Oh, they would know that if I'm angry, I don't have to fight, and other trust issues. So we would help them also decision making, peer pressure, and all those life skills training lessons. So out of this, then they would see, okay, so I can actually go back home and stay there and not fight. I can go back home and go back to school, not be influenced by peers. So whenever we do such lessons, especially because life skills training is a series of lessons or modules. So by the end of the module, because we would train them and then graduate them, they know, okay, I have completed this process, and then we hold like a small party for their graduation to know that they have completed. So at this time, majority of them really would know, oh, okay, so I can actually go back home and not be influenced by those other children who are not in school or who are doing some issues in the community, so I can be able to stay. So that really helped us. When introduced the training in life skills, it was very, very helpful. It's one of those areas that has helped us a lot to prepare the children and get them ready to move on. And then we also have assessment tools. We have the Child Status Index, which is provided for in the SOPs. When you look at the SOPs, they provide for tools to use. So we use the Child Status Index to show us and see how is the child progressing. When they came, they told us several stories before we came to the actual story. So they were unhealthy. So they have been treated, now they're okay. They were, the Child Status Index, the areas of assessment give you a way to see how the child is progressing. And also at the centers, the wardens and the other social workers that handle the children were working together. Later, we introduced what we call the star charts. Star charts were to help the children. If they improve something, you give them a star. If they do something grave, it may cancel 2 stars, something like that. So even the behavior at the center improved, and they were able to remain cooperative, and eventually this would be carried on as they moved on into back to their communities. And then for the ranks of preparation of the children, really it would depend mainly on the nature or the effects the child has had. If a child has been neglected for a long time and they have been on the street for a long time, it would of course take a long time to help them come to terms with their issues. And also for some of the children who have had trust issues with adults, for example, children who have been abandoned.
Sorry, just 1 second. Could I just ask everybody to put themselves on mute, apart from hard to hear? That's it, brilliant, thank you. Please carry on, sorry to interrupt. Dina, do you want to carry on, please?
Okay, sorry, I had also gone to close my door. Some feedback coming through. Okay, so sorry. Yeah, so as talk about children who, yeah, for the length of time of preparation, most times it would okay, for instance, there are children who you'd get from the street and they run away from maybe domestic violence and they're on the streets, and by the time we get in touch with them, they have been there for like 2 years or so. Such children it would take a lot of time to prepare them because they are so independent. They do a scrap, they gather scrap and sell it and get their own money, so they have some sort of income. And also they have had some connections on the street with what we call street uncles. Street uncles are older youth, like 18, 20, even up to almost 30, who have lived on the street for a long time, and they are now looked upon by street children like adults, or some sort of father figure, should I say, or maybe big brother figure. So children have had those deep connections.
I think we might have lost Dina. Can others hear her?
Yes, she's on the call, but I think she could be having connectivity challenges.
Yeah, sounds like it. Maybe we'll just shift and hopefully she'll be able to come back, because I was very interested to hear what she was saying. But maybe we'll just shift over to you, Elizabeth, and Memory, and you can give your responses to some of those questions, and then we'll come back to Dina shortly. Oh, I think she might have been dropped from the call altogether now. So yeah, please go ahead, Elizabeth.
Okay, thank you. So I will start, and then Memory can add as we go along. So I think the first question was around
Elizabeth, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm in between school runs, so my son just knocked on the door. Okay, so
sorry, my connection went.
That's okay. Sorry, Dina, what we might do too, we're just going to shift over to Zambia, and then we'll come back to you at the end for the last 5 minutes or so, and you can complete then. Yeah, thank you so much. So go ahead, Elizabeth.
So thank you, Emily. I think that the first one was from Mabona. Yeah. The question was around how we as CMMB have, is it on preparation of families?
Yeah, so
maybe
the first set of questions was really about your processes for preparing families, support packages that you provide, the follow-up you provide, the assessments that you do, that whole sort of set of processes, and any lessons that you describe that, and then lessons you've learned from that. That'd be really helpful.
Okay. Yeah, so as I mentioned, we are using the reintegration pathways that were developed by UNICEF, and we use the case management system. And in this case management system, we do have forms that we use. I think the main form that we start with is what we call a Form 1. It's an intake form for the child at risk, or the one that needs to be reintegrated. So what we do, we work very closely with the Department of Social Welfare who are the custodians for all these case management tools. And the child care facility or the drop-in center or the transit home does the intake. Then that information is what we use to, you know, for the process of the next stages of the reintegration process. So in the pathways, the identification is done by social welfare, and in some cases, the child care facility will be the one that does the identification. And then from there, there's a family tracing process that takes place. And then there are guidelines on what happens when the family is found, whether the family is willing or is not willing to take up the child. And so where there's a successful family tracing and the parents have been located and are able to care, we come in with family conferencing and family counseling. And in an event that we find that the case is complicated, what we have done is that as CMMB, we've also partnered with another organization that provides professional counseling. So that family will be linked to that organization, which will provide professional family counseling. And then after we've had some sessions with the family, then we now, you know, together with social welfare, we now start preparing the child. And let me just mention that actually the preparation starts from the time the family is found and the family is willing. The preparation for the child starts in terms of reintegration. But prior to that, the child care facility and social welfare office, they usually have engagements with the children in the facilities to, you know, let them know that the best place for them to be is at home. So there's a lot of activities that happen at that level, at the facility level. And then as we come in to support, to complement government efforts to ensure that these children are reintegrated. So after that happens, then the preparations for the child and also the family, they happen. Memory will be able to share more because she's the one that actually would link these children to the families, and also the children participate in the tracing. So we really emphasize that the child has to be part of the process so that it's not imposed on the child. And in an event where the child, you know, feels at any stage of the process, the child feels they are not ready to go back home, we do not force them. And as Dina had mentioned, this particular group of children that we deal with has, you know, they've had so much experience living on the streets, and it's not an easy process. There's a lot of challenges and the process takes long. So you see, we can tell you that we've worked with 13, or we've successfully reintegrated 6 or 5. You know, it's not, that number is actually a big number considering the group of children that we are dealing with. With the children that were just in the facilities and we reintegrated them, the process is totally different. The process can be shorter, but for the children that have had experience living on the streets and were exposed to so much harm, and you know, it's like they've gone through so many hardships, and it's not an easy process, or they do not easily trust. So once we've prepared the child and the child is willing, the family is willing, then we put together a package. It's a once-off package that we provide. In the first and the second phases that we were reintegrating children, we would put up a standard package. I just want to mention that in this phase, which we started in April, we want to tailor it to the needs of the family. And so, yes, and then we'd put up that package and would also work very closely with the District Social Welfare Office and the Ministry of Education to ensure that a school place in an event where the child needs to go to school is secured. And then in an event that this child cannot go back to school, but who is open to be trained in a skill, we also start looking for a skills training center where this child can be placed. So, and then we prepare that package, and then we do have a day which we set together with the family and the District Social Welfare Office, where we now take the child back home in a small ceremony. So we then reintegrate the child back into the family, and we ensure that they start school. A lot of follow-ups are made. And after that, we let them settle, and then we start our post-placement visits to ensure that the child is settling well in the home or in the skills training center if they've gone for skills training. Then we do that for 6 months for us to actually say that we have successfully reintegrated this child. And then in an event that after the tracing was not successful, we also have guidelines on what should be done. And in this case, we have, we have alternatives. This child can continue living in a child care facility as we look for other options, whether it's independent living or it's foster care, and for the small ones, if it's adoption. So the District Social Welfare Office continues, to look for options for these children. And then in an event that through the continued interaction with the child care facility, something comes up, and there's a need for us to probably retrace another relative who is willing to take up the child, or there's a potential of kinship care, we start the process all over again. So, and then if it's successful, then we proceed with the other stages that I've just explained. So basically, that's how we do our reintegration. And then I think there was another question, a question was posed: who is the lead in all this? The Department of Social Welfare leads. They are the ones that coordinate. We've come in with resources to complement government efforts as a non-governmental organization. And in terms of sustainability, we do have cases where we've linked the children to the government social cash transfer. And also, I think at some point there was the government were looking for other options to make the process sustainable. And with the new government, there's also plans to link the families, especially to the micro, small, medium, and enterprises, so that we make these families have the capacity to take care of these children. So there are other points I would like to mention here, that family strengthening in reintegration, I think, has it's very important. Without it, children are more likely to return to the child care facility. So as CMMB, what we've done, we have the Village Savings and Lendings Group. I think in the last meeting, I also shared to say that in the second phase of the children in families, we also had an opportunity to give seed fund, though we realized that that would not be sustainable. That's why there's we want to link it to a government program that is under a ministry of the micro, small, and medium enterprises, and also look at other government programs like the Constituency Development Fund to see how best this can be linked to the family strengthening component. And in terms of preparation for and supporting children and families, I think Memory will add to that, but I just want to mention that this is one of the major factors for achieving a successful reintegration. And then, you know, it's something that as partners and also as CMMB, we really need, you know, it's emphasized actually by government to ensure that it's in the exit plans. And also the packages, we want to see how best we can make it sustainable. So in this phase, we want to tailor it to the family and also try to be as realistic as possible so that families are able to continue. We don't want to give them bigger packages where in the end, maybe they might feel like there's something lacking if they don't have that thing. So basically, I think that's my response to the question.
Thank you so much. There's just been a quick question for you in the chat box about what CMMB stands for. Is it the Catholic Medical Missions Board? Is that right? Have I got that right?
Yes, it is.
Great.
Yes, yes,
so
it's the Catholic Medical Missions Board.
I'll just put a little link to your website in the chat as well. So we're fast running out of time. I'd really like to hear from Memory, and I'd also really like just to give Dina a chance to finish what she was saying before she got cut off. And I can see that there's some questions in the chat box as well around what the package constitutes. So if people are able to stay for another 5 minutes, we can get through all of those things. But don't worry if you have to leave, there will be a recording of the session. Is that okay for everyone? Okay, great.
Yes, yes. So Memory can share on the preparation.
Please go ahead, Memory.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Although you've said like almost everything of the integration process. So yeah, the integration process itself is not as easy as it might sound. There are quite a number of challenges just from the beginning, at tracing, because we want to engage, make sure that we engage children in tracing their homes. So at the point of tracing, sometimes we don't even make it because the child will keep on taking you around and around because the child has been in the street and the child has tasted the life in the street, and now the child feels is independent or she's independent, so she wouldn't want to go back home. So the child will just take you round and round and round. If you're not careful, you might even end up not managing to trace the family. Yeah, and coming to family conferencing, it is a process. Depending on the case of that child, depending on the reason why the child separated from the family. So sometimes it will take you even 5 days to 14 days just talking to the family because you want to create a rapport with them. You want to make sure that you create an environment where they'll be able to open up to what relate to the child separating from the family. So it's a process. And because you also want to engage and you want to engage other important relatives or family members to be part of the family conferencing. So sometimes it's not even easy to meet them at once because of their different work schedules. So hence making it a challenge for you because now there will be the back and forth, you go there, not everyone is there. You have to make another appointment, making sure that you meet all the important relatives that you need to meet.
Thanks, Marie. I'm always so impressed when I listen to social workers talking about this work with reintegration, and particularly the reintegration of street-connected children, because I appreciate it's very challenging. Dina, did you just want to wrap up with what you were saying? When you got cut off, you were telling us about the uncles, that sometimes these more experienced children that have been young people that have been on the street for a long time, and you were just explaining a bit about, I think, how they might help or hinder, I guess, the reintegration process.
Yeah, yes, I was saying that, the children refer them as street uncles how they may hinder the reintegration is that the children have such a connection with them because they sort of find protection under their groups, and also they kind of look up to them when they are maybe stuck. The uncles can do something about their situation, something like that. So it is something, especially when we are working with street connected children, to know those issues that are still on the street that may draw the children back. Are they in some sort of informal work? Of course, it will be informal. Are they connecting to somebody who is promising them something that even when you take them back home, they might come back? So it's important to know those areas of their involvement on the street that are likely to pull them back, even when you are still working with them. And also maybe briefly, in the preparation of children, we encourage child participation so much that we have leadership of the children when they're at the center. We allow them to hold their own meetings and talk about whatever they would want to say without, okay, the staff may be somewhere watching at a distance, but they are free to talk about, if for instance, they are not happy with the certain situation or staff or something that is happening, they are free to talk about that and forward the information to the management of the organization. So child participation is also very important. And for the preparation of families, we always try to ensure that the family own the process. When we go and trace the family and we find them, we want to make sure that they know that this is their child and the child is coming back home, and it is now their responsibility to make sure that the child stays. So I think Elizabeth talked about family conferencing. We do that a lot. And also we involve local authorities. When we have traced the families and found them, we involve local authorities so much. We would want them even to help in the following up afterwards. They will help in family conferencing or reconciling the child with the family, but also to ensure that since they're on the ground, they are able to help in following up the family and to ensure that the child stays at home. And in this, we also involve the local authorities. There, those who at the lower level, village level, but also at the district level where we have probation and social welfare officers. We cannot reintegrate a child without reporting to these people. So when we do that, then in case anything happens to the child where we are not, they are able to intervene, since in most cases would be far away from the community. Maybe because of time, that's what I would add. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great, thank you. And there's one last question from Stefano about the one-off package and what does it constitute and who provides it. I can't remember which organisation referenced that package. Maybe you both provide a package of support, but you could just tell us a little bit about what. I think you've mentioned some sort of educational supports and linkages to social protection programs and income generating schemes. Are there other forms of support that you also provide?
For Zambia, we do have a once-off reintegration package. In the last meeting, we shared in the chat box what is comprised in that.
Yeah, you did, and I'm afraid I don't think I copied that. So
okay, so maybe I'll share again in an email.
That would be so great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Great.
Yes, and I also wanted to mention a quick mention to say that this once-off is not enough. The once-off package is not enough, and this is why in this in this phase we really want to tailor it to the family, and also maybe look at other elements like probably linking it to income generating elements within the reintegration package. For example, if they want seed, then I would give that family seed so that it's more sustainable. and not just give them the soap and the food just once off. So yeah, I'll share in an email the reintegration package and also the education package that we provide. And if there's any more questions, we are open to giving responses. So you can just email us and then we'll be able to provide feedback on those questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we have I sent an email out this morning. I think most people on this call are included in that email. So perhaps if you want to ask any follow-up questions or you have any follow-up information, you can just reply all in that email, because I think everybody would be interested in hearing some of the answers. I think we'll wrap up there. Thank you so much to all of you for joining the call, especially to our colleagues in Uganda and Zambia for sharing so much fantastic work that you've been doing on reintegration. And I'm sure we wish everyone in Malawi lots of luck with your work moving ahead on the reintegration of street connected children. Let's carry on the conversation with sharing some of this information as we move ahead. And sharing progress and successes as well, because I know that there are many. Great, so I'll finish up there and let's keep in touch. Bye everybody.